All right. Hopefully that works.
Are we streaming? Are we live?
Yes, you're streaming. You're live.
Woohoo!
Cool. Someone kick me? No, we're not that kind of place, unfortunately.
Yeah. Why? Why?
Why
Why
do
would
you want
they
to be
do that?
kicked? Oh, okay.
Ah, that makes sense. Well, all right. They're gone.
Well, I remove them because I understand the blight that they have, and I removed them.
Yeah. Yeah. The blight of accidentally clicking on something.
Hey, I mean, we've well, not. I'm gonna say that some of us have been there where maybe we practice, and maybe our family isn't so keen on the idea of us practicing metaphysics or whatever, and you kind of want to get out quick, and they didn't understand how. So yeah, I'll be more than glad to.
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Being in the closet or, not able to actually be open uh, in practice or your thoughts. I that just it's got to be a really difficult place to be, right? I mean, you feel you have to keep it secret because um, you don't want to be judged or picked on or uh, told you're wrong. I think that to me is just mind blowing.
Yeah, I'd say it
But I
definitely can
think
be.
that it's
I never felt that way, and that's probably because it never came up. So I mean, I grew up in a Christian family, but my my mom at least had some experiences with things. My father not so much. My father was like the mundanest of the mundane. Like, not being offensive, he would like totally agree with me. But yeah, I was also afraid. So I guess that's normal for if you're younger and you're afraid of what your family would think or say. So you're kind of a closet practitioner of sorts. And yeah, I mean, kids are kids, so
Yeah. I mean,
that's all I can say.
I grew up with just my biological mother, and apparently she had like already decided that I was going to be gay of some kind. So when I came out, she was just kind of, yeah, if anything, I was disappointed. I felt it would have been more exciting if there was some kind of surprise, but she was just very matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
so then would you say that it seems like I see a lot of people talking about, they don't have either community or they can't really be open in their practice. Is that more common than not? Would you guys estimate?
I mean, it's hard to say these days. Like, it was different back in the early 2000s and 90s. I would say that my situation was probably extremely unique. And also, I didn't go to like a normal high school at the time. It was only a small high school of about 100 people. So they were relatively accepting. So I didn't necessarily feel at any point like I did not suffer any extreme resistant adversity, I suppose is the way to put it. And I mean, now these days, I think it is both easier and harder in the sense of like, I think there might be more resources and there might be more of an ease of being an open ally, but also at the same time, there is more of an ease of being not an open ally. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, kind of like because of not to get into politics, but of current views, it seems to be more extreme. There seems to be more extremism or backlash, I'd say. Or at least that's how it appears to me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Orange Emperor Palpatine has not assisted in that process.
Yeah, and there seems to be a lot more of wanting to other, you know, people and practices.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. It is a time of diversity, but also at the same time, like, I guess in a way, it is also a time of people showing where they stand, which can have its uses.
Yeah,
So,
I go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna go off on a little on a little spiel, so I would rather hear from you, Adfang.
Nope. I was going in a completely different direction, not even related. So go ahead.
Okay, because I think I lost that train. The train jumped the track.
I was just going to say hello to everybody on Twitch, and just kind of introduce who we are because of the one person that's listening there, probably. Um,
Bold
I
of
was just
you
gonna
to
say,
assume that one person is listening to us.
yeah. I'm actually pulling it up now.
Are you're pulling up stream? You're going to watch our stream as we stream to Twitch.
I wanted to see if there were any comments. And actually, I'm going to share your Twitch
Oh my
to
god.
another server so we can get some audience members in here. So, of
Sure,
course.
why not? Just remember this will also be uploaded to my YouTube later, so that'll be another place where people could potentially see these things.
That's fine.
So while Adfang is doing that, I mean, did we want to continue on the subject of being in the closet and current existing adversity, or did we want to talk about? I mean, we could talk about it within the adversity of various practices and the complications and nuances that go in on with that, if we want to.
I think that might be healthy. I think it's something that we could definitely explore because we have different um, perspectives on it, or we're coming from different um, backgrounds. Even though we're very open here, you know, I I think it's worth exploring. And um, but I would like to say to like to follow in Adfang's footsteps. Welcome to everyone that's joining us. We probably should introduce ourselves because I think I missed that part this week.
Yeah, we did not introduce ourselves. People are just going to be listening and just go, "Who are these people, and why are they talking?"
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And this is the first stream, so for all I know, the audio is messed up and no one can see us, but we'll see how it goes.
I could hear
So
myself on Twitch, and after that, I just muted myself because that's what I expect everyone else to do.
Yeah, no, that's
nice.
completely fair. I mean, you two should probably introduce yourselves first, given the order that the letters in the name go currently.
Oh yeah,
Alrighty.
I'm Adfang.
And I'm AK Lady.
And I am Luna, or as some people have known me previously as Diana Tempest, but I guess also I am changing that name or trying something new with Luna Lantern. Um, Name represents my favorite celestial body, the moon, and then a thing that uh, is technically an outdated form of technology, but is in fact still used today. So.
Welcome to AANL Speaks. I'm sorry, AANL Podcast. AANL Speaks. The name is kind of a work in progress. We'll get there eventually.
The
Kind
name
of a
is pending.
placeholder. Yeah, name pending. That's the name of the podcast. It's name pending.
Name pending until I can grind the two of you down enough until you accept a singular name as the reality of your podcast going forward. I'll get there. It just takes time. But yes, we were talking about I guess not necessarily adversity, but like I suppose the divided nuance of things. Um, I think that is sort of it serves a purpose in the fact that on topics becomes more complicated over time. Like, I suppose a good example would be a subject that I recently just fell into a rabbit hole on, which is Thelema, in the sense that historically it's a practice that kind of has just been seen as weird, but now recently it has sort of become uh, a practice with some level of contention attached to it, specifically due to the anti-Semitism of its founding member.
And can you elaborate a little bit? I'm unfamiliar with what Lima is, Luna.
Thelema.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Thank you. Gotcha. Okay.
um,
Would you
I
share a little more on that?
yeah I can, especially since I mean it is sort of like one of those you know about it or you don't. But essentially, it is an esoteric Western-based practice that was created by Aleister Crowley. Um, it is in a lot of ways sort of the child of his experience with the Golden Dawn. So it is highly ritualistic, has very heavy leanings into occult symbolism. A lot of its work kind of takes place involving Kemetic deities and sort of some of the influences from that. Aleister Crowley actually wrote the Book of the Law, the first piece of literature in relation to Thelema, while he was on his honeymoon in Cairo, which is just kind of a really shitty way to spend your honeymoon. Um, and I don't know if that speaks towards just Aleister Crowley or like what kind of relationship he had with his wife Rose at the time. But I hope if I ever have a honeymoon, I don't spend it writing a book that then expands into a religion, because that would be weird. Um, but yeah, it is very, and this is my very limited knowledge of it based on like very cursory research. Is it is a high magic, quote unquote high magic, high ritual, um, very instructional, but also very geared towards the things that Aleister Crowley, of course, had his fingers in, which was sort of like non-standard, non-Christian. Like there's some belief in Baphomet, but also it doesn't seem to be like a major like primary aspect. There's sex magic, as well as other things of that nature. So it has the flavoring of something that is taboo, but also simultaneously, I think in this day and age, is kind of backburnered to the point where it's not so much taboo these days as it is just, I guess, not the norm, it seems. But historically, Aleister Crowley has sort of, it has not been a it, it, Aleister Crowley has always been considered not the greatest guy. He was an incredibly egotistical person. Um, he sort of did his own thing. He had multiple lovers, which isn't a big deal these days, I suppose. But I'm not 100% sure if infidelity plays into that or not. But recently, there has been a lot of discussion of anti-Semitic, uh, either influences or leanings in his works and just in the man in general. And because of that, there is talk of like, is Thelema tainted because of the fact that either its founding member was anti Semitic or that he could have, you know, built the system with those influences in mind. And these are kind of things that are um, up for some level of debate. There are some people who definitely will say, it's not up for debate. I'm only saying it's up for debate because again, very cursory research. I'm not 100% sure uh, what how far that goes. And it's something I plan to research into more in the future.
Interesting. Um, I'm always kind of interested in the connection between Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes.
And of course, then we have the Church of Scientology and all of that. So then could that potentially be an aspect? I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for even trying to draw a line, but it does make me interested if there are parallels and adjacencies, perhaps.
I think it's very possible. Um, it would be hard to say. I think that of the two, Scientology is, I guess, the more accessible one. Um, 'Cause- mainly because it's such a big institution. Like, it has tons of members. It has physical lodges and facilities that you can go to. It has readily accessible online programs, and yeah, it does kind of play into the idea of this mystery school that doesn't necessarily freely give out all of its information, but does sort of give you this doorway of, oh yeah, come in, get initiation, you'll learn the secrets as you go, which in a lot of ways is sort of, I understand that there is a traditional value in the idea of a mystery school that like has that sort of gate between knowledge and the rest of everything, the Masons being like a big one. But Scientology takes it even further in the fact that their practices do require substantial amounts of financial revenue from their followers, as well as a level of cult-like secrecy. Once you're in, you're expected to be very, very shelled about your existence. Um, but yeah, I mean, there could definitely be parallels there for sure. Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard uh, definitely, had previous contacts, I believe, if I remember correctly. And they are somewhat cut from the same cloth. They are both people who are considered "quote unquote" mystical people who got into the public limelight and sort of filled in that space of, oh, this person, this particular individual is the magic person for XYZ that's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, and there's a lot of like lore surrounding both of them too. Uh, so I just find it a little interesting.
Yeah, I would agree. Adfang, do you have anything you would like to share?
Not right now. I am dealing with something, but I will in a few minutes.
Okay, you're perfectly fine. Um, yeah, no, I agree. Like, Aleister Crowley, especially, did a lot more. I think uh, L. Ron Hubbard primarily was an author. Obviously, a bit more than that, but Aleister Crowley, like, I guess between the two of them, is the one who just kind of kept doing the occult thing for pretty much the entirety of his life. Um, One of the things I think, if I recall correctly, he was pretty big in was Gnosticism. So he
Yeah.
did have literature and writings of like talking to angels and using the Enochian alphabet to try and communicate with them, which is always interesting. And also, uh, his writing is very. I'm not saying he was on drugs, but he could have fooled me if he was.
Well, I mean, at the time, um, substances were not illegal, for one, and there was a little bit more fluidity, uh, or ease of access in the past because they were not. Uh, Cocaine was, even in the early 1900s, was still, I think, into the 20s. Hey, Indila was still in Coca-Cola. Morphine was, these were things that were easily accessible. So like it wouldn't surprise me at all um, for someone to dabble. I know a lot of people, and this is just my personal, I haven't done a whole lot of research into Crowley. I see him more as a showman, as almost like performative art,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
a performance artist. Um, and I, not to say that that's not, that he didn't have the spiritual aspect or whatever, but I do feel like a lot of it was performance oriented or show oriented, because I think that I feel that he, kind of the any attention is good attention kind of thing. So he's a very complex character.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think ultimately, and maybe this can also be sort of a segue in a sense. I think you can do both, and I think that he is an example of someone who did both. Like, I do think that regardless of whether or not I agree with like how his system works or anything like that, I do think that he had some kind of ties to the metaphysical world. And he, did do legitimate magical spiritual practices. He was also a huge showman. He like the main picture of him is, him with that triangle hat. It's like
Yeah.
the main one you'll find everywhere, and like that was kind of his thing. And he, historically went around and sort of flaunted, his uniqueness, and also his um, lovers and the various things that he associated himself with. He was loud and very sort of straightforward with the fact that he was weird and doing various things that were outside of, I guess, societal norm, um, which I think, it served him well. He, is famous and everyone knows his name these days.
Yeah, for sure. And there's always been um it's really hard to put a finger on because, times were different then, but I I would say I always felt like he appreciated women and didn't necessarily want to degrade them. Does that make sense? Like, again, I haven't done a whole lot of research, but it 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 always came off to me, what I've come across is that, like, there's this important aspect of the feminine, which is kind of very forward thinking, I think, in that time frame.
Yeah. And I think so. Like, I won't say that he was not in any way. Like, he definitely
No.
had problematic aspects, but I do understand what you mean in the sense of, for the time, which for context is like early 1900s, like very early
Yeah.
1900s. He was very much, selling this idea of magic required, both male and female uh, archetypes, and that women had a place in, doing magic and being part of these rituals, which, again, for that time, very progressive. Um, Not necessarily progressive these days per se. I definitely think holding him to a light of the 21st century reveals a lot of flaws, but also I think that's just what you're going to get if you're looking at someone from 100 plus years ago.
Well, right. I mean, and I think that's like we can't remove the cultural context or the time frame in which a person resided in and plunk them into our modern understanding or our current understanding, right? It makes it a very skewed comparison.
That it does. And I think, I don't know, I think it is very good to see kind of both sides of it. Um, Welcome back, Adfang.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you for taking care of issues. It's appreciated.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes, your business comes first.
We call that multitasking, except not multitasking.
Yeah, yeah. That's how today's society works. You gotta be productive.
So I'm totally going to change the topic.
Please do.
Uh, we were speaking earlier today about dreams.
Oh God.
Um,
Okay.
well,
Sure.
so
Bring it on.
so yeah, well, I want to ask you, um, how how much weight do you put into like a dream? And do you think that, the dreams that we have a huge bearing on how we understand things that are going on around us?
I can go first. I think that it is very dependent on the dream itself. But dreams that I tend to uh, I guess put more bearing and value into are going to be dreams that have some kind of larger impact. Yeah, no worries, Iggy. Um, but like I guess I'll wait for it to come back to talk about the dream I had last night. But essentially, I have dreams that are just kind of like vague. Just oh, you see something, or maybe you remember a couple things. The dreams I usually stick to that I put a lot of value into are dreams I remember most of, or have like severe, I guess, physical sensations. I don't know if you can call it physical if you're dreaming, but like being able to feel the ground you're on, smell the air. I feel like the dreams that aren't just a movie you're watching. That's kind of when I pay a bit more attention.
Do you say, or would you say that you are a person who has a lot of lucid dreams, or dreams that you remember a lot?
Yes and no. So that's kind of a weird thing that I've noticed over the last couple years is that I will dream and most of the time they're lucid in the sense of in the case of lucidity, well, I guess, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you're referring to I know it's a dream and that is affecting how I act within a dream. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm wondering. Yeah. I guess it's a double question. So like, how often do you lucid dream, and then like, do you have a lot of lucid dreams? And if either way you answer, how often do you have good dream recall? I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. So good dream recall, I'd say its first part. Not not terribly often. I would say that most dreams that I have come in bits and pieces. Very rarely, like last night, do I have a dream that I remember basically the whole thing. That being said, most dreams that I have, what I remember of them shows that I was lucid in some fashion. I've literally had a dream before where mid dream, like mid everything going on, not last night, but a different dream. Uh, I literally stopped and was like, "Hey, it's morning. I have to go. I'm sorry." And then I just pieced out. Like, I don't know what it is about my subconscious, but I think my subconscious is weirdly aware that I like when I'm dreaming, but also is like, I guess this is what we're doing. So it just kind of goes along with whatever is happening. Um, Now that Icky Lady is back, if you'd like, I can talk about last night's stream. I don't know what kind of bearing it's gonna have because I still don't understand it completely.
Let's AK, do you want to there, I guess there is a reason that I'm asking, but it is kind of funny. Do you want to talk about first how your how much you lucid dream, and what kind of bearing you feel it has on you and your practice, and then we can go into sharing about dreams if you want.
Um, I I my experiences are different. I lucid dream in a week 90% of the time. Um, I and I don't, this is not me trying to create more or sound more different, whatever. Um, I've always been an active dreamer, and I've always been kind of a natural lucid dreamer. Over the last 5 years, things have really ticked up, and I will tell you, in the last 8 months, it has increased in frequency. And I think that there are levels of lucid dreaming. There's like the standard, the typical type of lucid dream where um, you become aware uh, in the dream and you kind of control the dream. Okay, so that's kind of the standard. Um, what I experience in most of my lucid dreams, some may consider dream walking. There are other terminologies, um, but it's being awake and being cognizant within lucid within the dream, but experiencing um, things that go beyond just, oh, hey, I want to change, I'm flying, now I want to do this. Um, where we end up having shared dreams, um, interconnected dreams with other people. Um, and so, like, to me, there's a lot of it's lucid dreaming. It's a very broad topic, but I think that there's, like anything, it's kind of like the umbrella, that kind of um, drop down menu that we can have. Um, yeah, I usually every night I have at least one solidly lucid dream, if not multiple. Um, and dream, as far as dream recall goes, uh, I can pretty much share with you exactly, from texture to taste to smell to the entire experience.
Awesome. Yeah. I so As bad as this sounds, the only time I lucid dream is typically when I'm not wearing my CPAP. Whenever I wear my CPAP, I get such good sleep that my body is like, yeah, everything is in rest. So I can force myself to lucid dream if I don't wear it. Now, I don't suggest that for anyone out there. And I think I've only tried that once. Um, Again, I think breathing at night is more important than lucid dreaming. I like to be alive. I don't like being hypoxic. Don't want any
Yeah.
permanent brain damage. So, um, I, as of late, I've only had maybe one or two dreams that I really remember. Everything else has been kind of like, yeah, you kind of remember some things. Which I guess kind of goes into like the whole like dream recall thing and working on that, which I guess I do need to work more on to have more lucidity in my dreams and at least dream recall. Um, but yeah, Diana, if you want to share your dream, that would be great if you feel comfortable doing that. Same thing for you, AK. If you have any dreams you want to share, you're totally open to it.
Yeah, I can. I do just want to double back and just say, like, yeah, PSA, don't, uh, even if it leads to you being able to like have a lucid dream, don't put yourself on the cusp of potential suffocation in order to get there. There's definitely other ways. So
Yes.
I
I was being serious but also joking. Okay, so I would never suggest putting yourself in the realm of possibly being harmed for anything to happen. So don't do that. Like, just don't. Okay.
we actually did have a commenter on Twitch. It looks like I'm gonna say this and probably mess it up. It looks like
The
the
dichotomist.
dichotomist says, I also feel like I only lucid dream when I'm not getting great sleep. And yeah, kind of like I know that's one way. The other ways that I've kind of seen involving like getting used to lucid dreaming all involve like consistently waking up middle of the night and journaling down your dream until your body gets used to the fact that you are expected to chronicle your night stuff. Which I mean, I might try that one day, but it sounds like, especially for someone who works 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, very exhausting already. Like I don't know how it takes a bit of mental gymnastics to get to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to expect that I will wake up at 3 a.m. I'm going to write down a diary entry and then I'm going to go back to sleep and I'm going to wake up at 6. Like I am not, if you can tell, I'm not a fan of that method, um, which I've heard a couple people apparently do.
Yeah, that actually is a good way for people to project, or at least one of the methods that I have had success with whenever I was having trouble projecting before, which is set a very gentle alarm for early in the morning, 2 3 a.m., whatever your time is for like if you work in the day, or night, whatever, and then wake yourself up in the middle of the night, and then go back to sleep while you're still really drowsy. But I agree with the dichotomist that usually the most vivid or lucid dreams that I have, I wake up not feeling very rested. And I think that there is a physical correlation to that. Like your mind is, you're able to connect more with your mind because you're not getting that sleep and you're still kind of awake and not getting full great sleep that you should be. So yeah, I really feel that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Sorry, Luna. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, you are good. It's just you did ask for me if I would share my dream, which I will, since both of you are here, and I was already going to share it earlier anyway. So, um, but
But can I, before we segue, we do have a question in our
oh, of
chat
course, yes.
from Indila. So, um, her question, is it normal to forget dreams even when you hit astral or even lucid? Will you two share your experiences there
I
or your thoughts?
Yeah. I'd say possibly. I've had a couple situations where uh like and the funny that's kind of the weird funny thing about it is that like I can't say, "Oh, I forgot this," and I was totally going to remember it even though I forgot it. But I've had plenty of situations where when I get to the point where I'm aware is the part I remember, and everything prior to that is just completely gone. Um, so I would say yes. Like I would say it's very possible.
Excellent. Advang, would you like to share your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, So, if whenever I wake up, if I either I'm pretty much one or the other. I either remember every single aspect of the dream, um, super detailed, or I don't remember it at all. Um, Sometimes I will have very small blips of like, oh, okay, this happened, and that's about it. If I don't remember it. Um, for lucid dreaming, what lucid kind of implies that we are aware that we're dreaming. So I would say when I lucid dream, I remember much more about the dream than just a normal one. But physiologically, we have like anywhere between like 4 to 8 dreams a night throughout the entire time that we're sleeping. So it totally makes sense if we're not remembering any of them. If I'm if if I'm projecting, um, there have been times where I set out intention to project, and I remember bits and pieces, and possibly nothing of the projection that I had. Even if I projected with someone and they're like, "Hey, this happened the other night," um, and I start to do some recollection, and I go, "Oh yeah, well that actually did happen." Like it makes sense after the fact. So yes and no. I do think it is normal though for you to forget dreams because it's just physiologically what happens.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, I think that some of the aspects in the dream state, I think that if they're not important, it's kind of like any work that we do. The unimportant stuff falls away. Sometimes it might just be about the experience or what's going on, because the other side of dreams, like, it's important for our body and our brains to kind of filter through and to access and tap into that subconscious. So, whether we're working through um, stressors, fears, things that have us irritated or agitated, um, it just depends. And so, yeah, I would say that I think a lot of that is fairly normal, and if you want to work on retention more, there are lots of different ways in which to do so. It's like anything we do, it's a practice that you build. So do we have any other questions before we get into Luna's dream?
I promise once we start, we don't stop talking. So
Uh, Not so much questions. The dichotomist did go ahead and say, journaling is a pain. Is probably super helpful, but man, I don't have the energy for that. If I just woke up at 1 to 5 a.m., 100%. Also, yeah, don't worry. They initially called me the lampshade slash streetlight man, and I had to explain to them, you mean me, the trans woman. It's perfectly fine. Uh, my rule is everyone always gets one mistake, one pass. I can't expect you to magically know everything. I do expect you to magically know everything. I'm lying. Um, do you have any other questions? No? Okay. Yeah, and I mean we're not really swapping topics unless we really want to. I think it's more entering the stage of trading dreams to some degree. Mainly because like I woke up and the first thing I said to Adfang was like, "Had a murder dream." It's just how I will start this story. But essentially, I dreamt that I was in a house, and I'm pretty sure it was with who I think was my biological family, and there was a like an internal conflict in the sense of like sometimes in dreams you know of something and kind of you get an idea of something that's happening, but like essentially I was not happy with the fact that I was relegated off to like this side room that wasn't part of the house. Um, and they were very much like, no, that's your place and everything. And then the dream shifted to, and I must ask Achy Lady because it took Adfeng a minute or two to know what I was talking about. Do you know what I mean when I talk about the Mask of Red Death?
Yes.
Okay, yes. For the listeners, the Mask of Red Death is an Edgar Allan Poe story, essentially about a extravagant party that happens, and then a figure shows up dressed in a red mask and kills everyone. And the general concept is that the figure, the Mask of the Red Death, is like the plague or death incarnate. Um, Essentially, I wound up outside of the house, and the house is now draped in these red, like, sheer curtains on the outside. And I somehow know that I'm like dressed up as the Mask of Red Death, and I go to the front door, like, wave my hand. The front door, squeaks open and opens without anyone touching it. And I go inside, and the rest of the dream seems to be me going around and occasionally picking someone out of the family and kissing them, and then they die. And that was like the whole rest of the dream was just me doing that over and over to various members of the family in various moments. Uh, so yeah, I woke up kind of like in a weird mood today because I offed an entire dream family.
So let me ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Did you feel like you were a servant of?
Uh, not really. No, it kind of felt like I
Or
had.
in service to?
Okay. Um.
Does
Hmm.
yeah.
It could be
Right.
that
So
second one, I think.
right. So is it an aspect of you, or is it an aspect of uh something, something bigger than yourself, but again, are you an agent of, as in this is something that might be required for you? Um,
Thinking on it and how I remember it feeling, it felt like I it wasn't something completely foreign to me, but it did feel like I was putting on an outfit or a role of some kind. It
okay.
felt like I had put on this mask of Red Death and I like became the embodiment of it, but also it's not something that just like reared up from me. It is something that I put on over top of myself.
Right. So then when we look at the action, right, it's an important um we can look at death in many different ways. So with the kissing, there's definitely an intimacy. So are we offering it as a gift? How are we perceiving the action? And are we it clearly it was not malicious. It was a task. Perhaps sometimes, we need to die in the aspect of rebirth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're moving through that cycle. Sometimes it can be a signifier for change. Sometimes it can be a clarifier for releasing. So maybe there are a lot of different ways in which one can interpret um, death, uh, bringing death, being a harbinger, um, and an agent of, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's you directly, you are acting in behalf of or on account of. And you know, when we start to interpret our dreams, I think that we need to stop and kind of sit a little bit and marinate in the imagery and look at it not from, because a lot of times like that, a dream like that can be is extremely emotionally charged, right? Where it's like, oh my God, what did I do? Why would I dream this? Kind of thing. And so sitting back and looking at it. So again, with you having a mask on and being draped in a costume, right? So again, is it you? Is it an aspect of you? Is it something that maybe it's hearkening towards um, being a precursor to an event or a causality of something that needs to be done or accomplished so that you may feel more comfortable? You know, um, it's kind of like taking a mask off. So there are a lot of different ways in which we can interpret it.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, and it is something that I'm even actively reflecting as you talk about it. It there's a lot of parts, and I will say that while I did feel perplexed waking up this morning, I didn't necessarily feel bad. Like I've had definitely had dreams before where I've woken up and been like, oh, that was awful. That was the worst thing ever. Um, this did not feel like that. Also, the thing that I guess as you were talking about that that pointed out to me is like I myself didn't seem to have any sort of problem doing what I was doing. Like I very much remember that leaning into anytime I would lean in to kiss someone before kissing them, they would have a moment of clarity of like beginning to panic. And I think in that moment, I would primarily just be thinking that you're getting what you're getting. Um, so it was kind of this very, I don't want to say detached feeling so much as kind of like a feeling of sort of this is what's going to happen, and no amount of protest is going to stop it from happening.
Right. So it's more purpose driven. It's you are emotionally detached because you are not you have not been the one to make the decision, so therefore there is no guilt. You would be then acting on behalf of or in service to the action that is required.
Yeah, and I think that is something that I'm going to need to personally reflect on for a while. But yeah, that was my dream. If I'm being honest, probably one of the better dreams I've had in the last couple months. Um, Again, didn't feel bad per se about it, but I've caused us to go on sort of about my my dream for a bit. If the two of you have any dreams you would like to share, um, we do also have a number of comments. It seems.
Well, let's hear the comments.
Yeah. So we'll start with, let's see what we have here on, again, the dichotomist, who I hope is going to listen in every Tuesday because they seem quite vocal and it's fantastic. They responded,
Thank you for
I don't,
joining us.
yes, thank you. I don't know if this is a question on topic or not, but here goes. How do you tell the difference between dream and a projection? I've had dreams that felt like they were building magical skills, but I still knew it was a dream. I've only had a couple dreams that felt like a projection, but colored by a dream facade.
I like
Excellent
that.
question.
I like that a lot. Um, I think that Adfang and I are on a little bit of opposite perspectives here. Um, I thoroughly believe that we can project within a lucid dream or within a dream state. Uh, there's no science to back it up, but um, I've had experiences myself. I know of dozens of other people who also have had similar experiences, so I'm not going to say it's a one-off. Um, the it makes it very difficult to filter out, but again, with anything, it's like trusting your intuition. Like there, you know that it is different. It's just like when we become lucid within a dream, we know that it's different than the norm that we normally are within, right? And it can happen in a lot of different ways. And it's a really difficult thing to kind of suss out. I'm sorry. There is no clear answer to your question, dichotomist, other than I would say from someone who I think Adfang will probably agree with me. It's like practice. Um, Try to recreate what you know you were in when it happened and rebuild the experiment. It's like trying and trying and trying and see if you can get the same results or similar results in a similar manner, because that in itself, the experimentation helps us to understand, and it helps us to uh, build our database that we can then go back and like, okay, so I think this is the formula, and the formula may not be exact because there are a lot of other factors, our emotional state, uh, our body's need of rest, what else we have going on in our lives, any external stressors, all of those things can factor in. But if you can work to identify what the original kind of formula, air quotes, um, was, then that will help you hopefully get closer to recreating something similar. I hope that I hope that helps and makes sense.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And yeah, I would definitely agree, especially with what you said about you sort of know, and it is weird to say that, but the subconscious mind has always been sort of this pocket of you know things or you don't know things, and uh, I think I've noticed a level of sort of I guess cognitive conflict between my conscious and subconscious mind because my conscious mind wants to think about everything and roll it around in my head, whereas my subconscious mind is just like, oh, I know that thing. That's it. That's the whole. That's the whole of it.
Adfang, do you have anything to add? Let's hear your 2 cents.
Sure. Sorry, I'm going back and forth between things. So about projecting from a dream. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yes, we
that's
can.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So I kind of agree and disagree. I think that anything that happens that is from a dream, we should always be concerned with if it is or is not real. I do think that we can hop into a projected state from a dream, but we do need to make sure that it is not just us dreaming again or still dreaming or just hopping into a different dream. I'm always wary going from a dream state into in a projected state just because of that. And that's why usually the way I project, I do half projections, so I project while I'm awake, and I'm many people here probably already know that. We've talked about that many times before. It's been a while since we've talked though, so yeah, most of the stuff that I do on the planes is typically in a half projected state. That way I am still physically awake, and I know that it's not just my brain making up things while I sleep. You can also do certain types of reality checks as well, to make sure that you're not just dreaming. I can generally tell if I'm asleep and projecting by doing a few checks. I mean, and also that's also like a thing that kind of depends, because sometimes the most frightening thing that I've had is I've had like an Inception series of 3 dreams where I perform reality checks in each of the dreams, and then I woke up and then I was still dreaming, and then I perform reality checks. And that those are some of the most frightening things that you can experience, and it's happened to me like twice. But yeah, that's why I always have to question those things that I do while I'm unconscious. And that's where, if you're projecting with someone else, it kind of helps to be able to compare and contrast and find out what their experience was versus yours. So yeah, and then I did mention in the Twitch chat that I don't think that astral projection is like a dream state that some people think it is. I think that projecting in and of itself is completely different from our from a dream or a dreamscape. I think they're completely different things. So yeah.
I would agree with that, Adfang. Um, things are different, but there can be overlap, where projection can happen within a dream, which then changes everything else around it. It's, kind of like jumping from a happy land into, the holodeck, maybe, something, because it's very, the flavor and texture are very different. So yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Astral projection, or just projection in general, is also a great topic we could dive into, either today or at some point, or continue to compare contrast dreams. Dreams are great, but I like to look at things in a more box-like thing. I guess that's because I'm a man, and I like to compartmentalize things. And whenever I think of dreams in and of themselves, I think that dreams are completely separate. So to hop from a dream into a projected state requires some type of conscious decision. So you would have to actually wake up your mind some and then hop from that dream into that projected state. So that's the issue I have with going from a dream to a projection. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's just I sometimes have doubts on myself if I go from a dream to a projected state.
Well, right, but usually when that happens, I would say almost all a higher percentage someone is already lucid within that dream state. But we also know sometimes people can spontaneously project as well. Y-
Yeah,
I know that there are
I
people
agree with
who
that.
don't necessarily, so could it be kind of nobody really knows what the mitigating factors are or the causation, but that's not to say that it's not possible or it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
again,
it's just much more rare.
yeah,
It's
and
rare
I
or
don't
one.
I don't disagree with that either. Spontaneous projections, total thing. It just, everyone has different things that they experience and different things they go through. So, I mean, I am not a person that is going to tell someone that, hey, that experience is not real, because our experiences are unique to us. Like I guess a UPG. I mean, I like to verify everything I do by having it checked after I experience them. So that's just a me thing. Don't know about everyone else, but that's where that dreams, going from a dream to projected state, can be kind of iffy. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let me ask you, Adfang, since I think we're on we're on a tangent on a topic. Um, how do you feel about shared dreams?
oh, shared dreams are wonderful. They are so I think that they're entirely possible, and I think that they can also be spontaneous. I've had many shared dreams. If you've never had one, I would definitely suggest it. So, but yeah, what about shared dreams though? Or are you just asking my experiences about them, or like what I think about them?
Yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts because there are a lot of people out there who are like, that's a little too far into the woo woo. And so there are a lot of people who will say that that's not a possibility, or that it's, again, in a very small percentage. So Mr. Clinical here, um, scientifically speaking, Mr. Mundane versus metaphysical, um, share your thoughts on it. How do you think it it comes about, and then maybe share an experience, and then I'd really love to hear Luna's thoughts on this, and hopefully the dichotomist, if they're still listening. I don't have Twitch up, so thank you for your patience. um, if they have any thoughts that they would like to share with us.
I think that's a definite great route to go. So, because they definitely have thoughts, and I'm excited to share them. But yes, let's start with
Yeah, so shared dreaming I consider part of telepathy, so it's in that kind of group of skills. Generally, in the shared dreams that I have had, I have done it more than one way. I have just had the general set the intention to have a shared dream with someone. I I like to leave those kind of open. That way, I don't. Number one, we don't know what we're going to experience if we tell each other what we're going to experience, and that ruins the entire, like leaving it up to what we're going to have together. So that also front loads us. It already puts seeds in our mind of what's going to happen. So I like to keep that just out of it completely. The other way that I have shared dreams is by the person, or myself going to the other person's mind, and during right before sleep, um, and beginning the process of just having that shared dream then. Um, it's kind of hard to explain, and that's also kind of part of that woo. So if I lose some of you there, I hope it's not that confusing.
No.
But imagine that the best way I can describe it is imagine you project into someone else's mind is basically what we're talking about. It's something that you would also maybe do whenever you're doing something like a mindscape. I think a mindscape is another good example of this kind of telepathy exchange. And whenever I do this, or whenever we set up the intentions to have these shared dreams, I do my best to, as soon as I wake up the next day, write down everything that I experienced then and there. And I mean, even the smallest thing, because sometimes I don't have anything that I really remember. So I write down everything that I can remember as soon as I wake up. And then I like to share that with the other person. Typically, I also like to have the other person write down what they remember first, and then we share at the same time. That way, we prevent any bias whenever we're coming up with what we remember from that dream. And again, yeah, it is very clinical in approach to try and prevent any type of bias to the other person, or have them think of something while they're writing whatever it is that we dreamed about. And I would say, if we are setting out intention and we do have a shared dream, there is a pretty good success rate in the similarities that I have with people. There have been a few times where the shared dream either it was just like completely different, and I mean, and that's totally okay too. I mean, that happens. That's also like, we can dive into talking about how we interpret things differently. So while we may have had a shared dream, we may have been experiencing different aspects of it that were either more important to us, or that our mind was interpreting it, or our subconscious was interpreting it in a different way. So I kind of consider those like, maybe it was a shared dream. And then there are times where I don't dream, and that's always the thing that can happen too. So, yeah, shared dreams are a great way to practice telepathy. I think that if you have someone that you trust, you're good friends with, it could be a good way to try out some telepathy whenever you're not conscious. I don't think I've ever had a bad trip, so to speak, quote unquote trip. Um, I think any time that I've had what could be considered a bad trip was not ultimately bad. It was just possibly something that we needed to have experienced together, or that we needed to experience together but separately. So that was a lot. I'm sure there are questions.
Are you asking about questions from us, or?
Yeah, if anybody has questions, because I'm sure that was a lot of stuff.
Sure. Who do you think you are to have opinions, and how dare you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person, you're a person, the people who are listening are persons. I can only assume, because they are using human generated equipment. It could be a cat, but I would also consider a cat that talks a person, I guess. You know, we could be general and just say we're all entities, and as an entity, we do have opinions, or we have the right to have an opinion. And you're asking about my opinion and experiences, so yeah, it was your fault for asking.
Yeah, yeah, that was the intention. No, no, you're fine. I didn't have any questions. I was just listening along. I I will say I mostly agree with what you're saying. I will say that I have experienced dreams where uh, other folks whom I had intentionally decide I'm going to try and share a dream with you. Like, I've experienced their presence within the dream, but then their perception of it will be sometimes even vastly different than my own. Which I would agree isn't a bad thing. I think that every human brain is different, Um, and I would actually be terrified if I had precisely the same dream as someone else, because that's some supernatural TV show shit.
Yeah, that's been a very rare occasion. I would say that's only happened a couple times where things are pretty much identical. I don't expect with a shared dream or anything to be a, carbon copy identical thing as the other person, because we are both different people and we're going to our subconscious is going to understand things in different ways. Um, so yeah, I think that's totally normal. Um, on a slight tangent, um, I have done something. I guess it's adjacent, which is create a space for someone to dream in. It's also kind of a fun thing. If you I guess if you've seen Inception, where they were creating the dream, kind of similar, but also not, because it's not like that crazy, but kind of being that facilitator of a I don't know what you would call that. I don't want to say dream weaver because that sounds really cliche, and now we're all going to think about that song, but just being kind of like a facilitator of a dream. That's also a fun experience.
Yeah, and I think that definitely uh, could almost be its own topic. And I am very interested in hearing from you, because you are very into, as you mentioned previously, the idea of you like to get things tested and sort of get some kind of validation on whether or not something is legitimate. So I would love to dive more into, especially that which, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like I would say that is something that you could like say, oh, I've created a dream for someone. It goes way out there into the realm of potential woo. But like I definitely want to hear, knowing you, I'm interested to hear how you feel you test that. But I do want to also um, read a comment from the dichotomist, who has been diligently commenting, but specifically towards shared dreams. I'm one who thinks that's a bit far fetched, but I've had several friends who claim to have had them and corroborated it with the sharing individual. They sound wonderful, but I've never had one. I had some entities that I ask to visit in dreams, and most of the time they can't get my attention. They're also not dreaming, parentheses, but they will see when my mind has made them a dream form, which they have limited control over because it's a reaction to my inability to perceive them in real time. Um, Also, yes, cats can talk.
Give me 1 second to reply. Sorry.
One.
You're very funny.
I know I am. Thank you. That's why I have a Twitch channel.
Ha! Yes, you and your 26 followers and 5 viewers right now, 3 of which are probably friends that I've sent your Twitch to.
Yeah, and who knows how many of those are
Um,
robots?
so as far as um verifying things are um that's a challenge with anything in metaphysics, really, is figuring out if what we're doing is real. So if I am creating a dream for someone, I like to have I'll have a generalized concept of what the dream is. Let's just use, let's say the person is going into a coffee shop. Um, I am going to specifically put intent for 3 or 4 very specific things in that dream. So it may be something that is very odd, like like a like a person in a weird rainbow outfit with a weird wig on that is just completely out of place, that makes no sense. And then I will try to put in maybe a specific word that would be out of place at that coffee shop. And it's basically we're trying to facilitate a experience that is fairly normal for them, but in this case we're trying to very specifically have them remember specific things, so whenever they wake up they go, okay, I was in a coffee shop, I saw this really weird person that was in this outfit or whatever. I saw, I kept on hearing this word repeated. There was this weird sound that kept on repeating in the background, and trying to get, pieces of things together that can say, okay, yeah, they were experiencing something that I definitely created because I specifically put those things in there. So, and in that case, like if it is a coffee shop, for instance, I am not going to spend time worrying about what, the general coffee shop looks like, how many people are in there. I mean, when we dream, theoretically, we see faces of people that we have seen before. So I don't concern myself with that unless that's one of the things that I'm picking. Like unless I'm like I'm like I'm one of the people in the dream or something, So I don't focus on the every single thing, because that's kind of impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not worth the effort. I would rather pick very specific things and have a generalized concept of the dream, and that would provide evidence that the person has experienced what I was designing.
I think that's a very good way of going about it.
Yeah.
I think you had another question in there, but I've already forgotten because I got lost explaining how I do things.
Um, no, I think mainly it was an interest in sort of getting some context of, uh, how do you validate that sort of thing, which I feel like you did a great job, and uh, I think that honestly should be a topic that we branch into at some point on a future podcast. Maybe the topic should be validating the supernatural.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have discussed on a previous podcast, it's been a long time ago, about, how can we validate what we experience, and things that we like can do, how we as an individual do that. I think we talked about UPG at some point. So I definitely think we can dive into like how do you as a practitioner, not I mean you in general, not just like you uh Luna or you AK, and kind of like a general you, how do you verify whether or not what you're doing is actually a thing that's happening, or is it just a coincidence because of, whatever. So that's why, I guess, to go ahead and start going down this tangent, whenever I do something, I like to pick something very specific, um, as the point of the thing that I want to do, and then I set like a time constraint. So if I'm planning on, let's say, I want to find $20 or something really generic that people might do, I'm going to set a time frame of, okay, if this works in 3 days or whatever, if I'm setting this intention, if I'm doing some type of ritual or whatever, there's 3 days where if it doesn't work in 3 days, that it was not successful. I find $20 in 2 weeks, I'm not going to really consider it successful because I set those time constraints on myself, and I don't want a random coincidence to count as something happening of that may be out of my control completely. So I think that's something important that we need to do is not attribute everything that happens to us as a magical or as a metaphysical thing. that's going to like differentiate the magic and mundane, which is another thing that we've discussed before, but also is definitely welcome to talk about again.
Yeah, really, those are really, thank you for touching on those, because those are really important aspects. And because we have to be balanced, we have to be rooted. And if we just attribute everything to something external, beyond us, and it's just we're kind of floating along and not taking action and responsibility in our own lives, because we're moving into um, an aspect where it's like, well, everything will just happen. So we're no longer actively working or remaining balanced in our lives. And so, yeah, mundane versus magical or metaphysical. It's and I'm sorry, I'm about to preach here. It's about understanding that, yeah, we can do one thing and we can do this, but we also owe it to ourselves to make sure that we understand that we can make choices. We do have decisions, and there is a world around us in which we are immersed in. And running away or excusing ourselves from being able to be exposed to things because of this, that, or the other, because we're just solely focused on one, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, right? We have to put in the work. We have to find balance, because it's so easy to get skewed one way or the other. Like, it's healthy to be skeptical. It's healthy to question. And it's also healthy to trust your intuition and to trust yourself. And that's where we kind of build this um, clutch or team or collective community around us, where people are willing to work together to help us understand, whether it's UPG, unverified personal gnosis, whether it's gnosis, whether it's, magical practice, whatever it is. It can't just be one way or the other, all or nothing. We have to always remain rooted. So I apologize for that, but I agree with you 100%, Dad Fang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I suggest being skeptical of what we do. That's why I suggest, trying to verify everything that we do and make sure that it is truly us. Because if we attribute everything to, us being able to do it, whenever it comes to crunch time and we really need to do something and we fail, we've kind of, set ourselves up for that failure, for not giving ourselves proper expectations. So it's definitely important for us to ensure we are doing that. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And uh, yeah, no, I mean, it's probably I'm coming into this rather new. I expect that there will be topics that y'all have covered that I'm going to be like, hey, we should cover that. But I do think that there is a big onus on anyone who is in, I guess, the practicing sphere of any sort of um, metaphysical or otherwise supernatural um, practice, mainly because we've kind of we have seen what happens when that is not there. And what happens is, you wind up with books on occult science that start out relatively grounded and then lead off into spaces of just like, what am I reading, which has sort of led to the reputation that occult science now has today. So yes, I'm a big proponent of always try to, especially if you're going to describe something, give it context and give it some level of validation, even if your gut is 100% like, yes, this happened, yes, this is real, I know it. That's great, but that's you. Um, it is not other
Mhm.
people, and we must always remember that.
Yeah, exactly. And to be able to partner with someone that can help either work through the verification process or the understanding um, is really important uh, because the more we practice, the more things can be repeated like a science, like an experiment, right? And so uh, I think that that's more healthy instead of ascribing everything to something beyond, who we are or beyond our practice, um, because it can go sideways really quickly if you're not, and it can go um, places where most people have a really difficult time coming back from. So it's really important to make sure that you are healthy and balanced.
Yeah. I do just want to let both of you know that we are just a little bit past an hour and a half. Just seeing if y'all want to continue.
I'm doing okay. Nothing has really popped up so far, so yeah.
That'll be your call, Luna. But I would like to touch on, you said, there are topics that you'll bring up that we might have already covered before, which is okay. Um, and what we have touched on in the past, I think that there's nothing wrong with revisiting some of the topics that we've already discussed because in our development, our progress, how we change our views and how we may perceive or understand certain things may have changed, whether it's very subtle or if we're going to double down and say, this is what I know to be true for me. Um, I'm okay with sharing it, or going over subjects again if Adfang is.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it never hurts to rehash something, and also the past doesn't exist. So, um, but yes,
Time is an illusion.
Yeah.
time is mostly us trying to make sense of something that we'll never make sense of. Like 2025, everyone knows 2025 has been about 10-ish years. We are trapped, and I can't wait for it to come to an end. Ah, ooh, the dichotomist did say something, which actually might bring us back into topic. They said, uh, "Am absolutely not healthy and balanced. I'm skeptical, but seems like everything I hear other folks believe so firmly that their charisma and certainty kind of, I don't know, I get paranoid about it. Like, I don't think the law of attraction as described in The Secret is remotely real, but do you know how often I believe, like, I think it's real? Which I think is highly relatable for sure. I think that weirdly enough, while community is important, the biggest challenge that anyone practicing any sort of spiritual or occult anything, the biggest challenge will be other people. The second biggest challenge being yourself.
Well, yeah, and is there an agenda? Like you sharing that about um law of attraction, which has been, repeated. I've seen it in multiple different places. Um, People are going to believe or fall into what they feel um, is easily accessible. And sometimes for some, and this is not me knocking anybody else, um, but I think for some, there is, an agenda, or they just want to share their perspective so strongly. And it's not to say that myself, Adfang, or Luna here are not keen on spouting, what we feel or what we believe. Um, but we also realize, or at least, and I'm sorry for putting words in your mouth, but I also believe that um, everyone has their own path and their own journey. And there's a myriad of different ways to come to similar conclusions. There is never any simple, this is the right way, this is the only way. So whenever I see anything like that, I naturally kind of go, huh, yeah, no. Um, it's kind of like some of the keywords that we see in a lot of community or spiritual circles. You know, they're keywords, they're hot button topics that garner a lot of attention, such as the word manifestation. That is something really popular that people really ascribe to, and it's moved its way into our modern lexicon. And you know uh
Hey, if I think about it hard enough and I wish really hard, then I'll get it. That's how it works,
yeah,
right?
right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um.
um so yeah, it just go ahead, Luna.
Uh, oh no, sorry. But yeah. I was just gonna interject and say, yeah. I mean, it is a popular concept, and I think I'm kind of midpoint on it in the sense that I do believe in the idea of like you can attract certain energies to you. I also think that the idea of karma, what you put out into the universe, is probably, you're going to get a reaction to that. But, I lots of people like my adopted mother is very into The Secret, very into the belief of manifestation. I think the other one is like the Four Agreements. It's like a book that follows kind of the same vein. Um, but yeah, no, it is very appealing, the idea of if I just think about this thing I want just hard enough, it's gonna happen. I think it's very is a very safe and appealing concept.
It means
Yeah,
it's the least amount of work you need to do, and it says it in such a way that feels comforting for people, because if you don't have to do anything other than think, then it's easy for them. But they leave out everything that is involved in actual, and I'm not knocking people, but I kind of am, in real manifestation. So it's people wanting to take the easy way out whenever there is a lot of work that has to be put into it. And then they complain whenever there is a lot of work to do and that nothing happens when they do the work. So, yeah, manifestation in general as a topic is such a hard thing for me to talk to people about, because they want a easy solution for hard problems, and that's just not how the world works. I like to be open-minded, but also realistic. So,
Yeah, and please knock on it, because like, um, I assume probably most of the people here have seen the Secret, but for anyone who hasn't, the Secret is 90% someone's fan fiction Dan Brown novel, where they spend most of the time being like, this is the most well guarded magic that actually works on the planet. Like, people in power have always been using this forever, and then it's literally just them being like, yeah, wish and it will come to you. And it's just like, it is so, it is very disappointing, because it it is the very, like you said, bare minimum you can possibly manage. Um, like, any, and I think it's also maybe like a fair thing to say, any amount of magic that you do, or any situation where you are trying to make something happen, uh, there's always a cost. There's always, you have to also put yourself and your energy and your intentions and your actions towards the thing happening. It's not just going to be a, yeah, I thought about this real hard, and then it shows up.
Right. Well, but but because you can't just, you're not into the gimmick, you're into the meat and potatoes, right? And so, like, yeah, the whole thing with The Secret and all of that was a movie, uh, the books, it's designed to make money for someone off of, you know, selling an idea and a hope. And then what happens is, well, you're not doing it right. If this isn't happening for you, because, oh my God, this happens for me all the time. Um, and so then people are feeling obligated, or that like they need to go back because they need to learn more because they're not understanding. And so then it goes into, these symposiums and these lectures and all of this kind of stuff, when ultimately at the end of the day, where does it have to begin? It has to start with you. And yeah, it's stuff like that really lights a fire, we'll just say.
100%. And I think the dichotomist actually said, everyone has their own path and their own journey. So some folks seem to actually be subject to their beliefs about the world, like manifesting and law of attraction. But then you have folks who aren't at all, folks who say it's nonsense, and that's also their reality. And yeah,
Yeah.
I would fully agree. Like, your perception is your reality, and just for clarification, like, my belief involving manifestation is not necessarily just a strict, oh yeah, this would never work. My beef with manifestation is the idea that, that's all, that's like the end point, of like, I don't need to do anything else whatsoever. I'll just I'll just wish for it, and it's gonna come about. My, I guess you could call it some level of nihilism, uh, dictates in my head that, y'all, it always requires something else has to come into play.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I it and it does it the world around us is based on the perspective of the person who is perceiving it. So there is no right or wrong. There simply is, and how we proceed and how we expose and engage in our own lives. But again, that's just my perspective.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, perspective is everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think people want to, and generalizing people who are in the mainstream trying to talk about manifestation or are advocating for manifestation are offering, you know, getting something out of nothing, which is literally impossible when we come down to how physics, how the world works in general. And it's usually very simple things, but a lot of it is just a lot of talking about, oh yeah, well if you do this one thing, you're going to be able to get this, and you're not going to have to worry. And the really what it is a lot of these keywords. They'll say a lot of keywords and a lot of things that will attract people, and then it will get a lot of comments, or it'll get a lot of likes, because that's what people look for, and they want some type of validation, but the validation they're getting is not helpful to meet their actual needs or their end goal. And because of that, that's why a lot of these people that we see on either TikTok or Instagram who are talking about manifestation are garnering so many people, is because of they're applying to people's insecurities and their wants and needs, and saying things that sound good but are not going to help them reach that end goal. I mean, in and of itself, manifestation is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time and dedication. I mean, I've spent, I would say, upwards of 6 or 7 years on a project specifically helping with manifestation, and I've not had many results from it. And I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I worked that long on it, because it's been my baby project for a while, and I like to see results. So if it takes you that long just to have, I would say, some results, but not very many, that just puts it in perspective of how little people know whenever they say, oh yeah, well if you just believe in this one thing, or if you just say this, that you're going to get it. That is not how the law of attraction works at all, and it is not how manifestation works. So whenever we start talking about how to do these things, people just immediately get, they're like, no, someone else says that I can just do it this way, and it's so much easier than what you do. So it frustrates me, but I've already reached the point of, well, I've already beat this dead. I've beaten this dead. Whatever. I'm getting frustrated. I've hit this dead horse so many times that I'm tired of it, and I don't want to have that conversation many more times. So, anyways, I'm not opinionated about this at all. I don't think you can tell that.
Yeah, I can't tell, but I do believe if you manifest hard enough, and you meditate really deeply on the idea of not having this conversation again, it might not happen. Um, just
Yeah, I mean, I can make the active choice of never having this conversation again, um, but it is going to happen. I mean, that's just the way things are, and I've accepted that. And you can't always get what you want. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. The dichotomist did say a couple things, but I'm going to kind of summarize in the sense of they're talking about people who preach a lot of things, and in the sense of almost manifesting them, but then do practically the coin opposite, um, which kind of goes into sort of, you know, like again, the idea of just passive manifestation um, does not do do much. I think that any situation where I've seen manifestation positively work out, or even like show some kind of result, there's something else also being applied. Um, and it is a concept I think that also exists within magical practice. some of us in this Discord server are doing a rune journey, and I would say that in most cases, and Adfang, you are perfectly welcome to challenge me on this. Um, channeling the energy of the runes uh, does affect you. It does affect kind of like the experiences that you're going to have. But part of it as well is allowing yourself to go along with the concept of that energy. You're not just being like completely polar opposite resistant to it. Part of it is kind of accepting like, oh, I want this to happen, so I'm going to, not intentionally like just be like I'm just doing this all myself, but being like I'm going to not like cause more difficulty for this to happen, essentially.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I I I'm going to comment on what you said. Something that came to mind is, going along with a rune journey or being an active participant of the rune journey. So there's a difference between saying that you are going on it and you are, doing what we do, channeling the runes and working with them and such, versus, actually doing it. So there are people that it's like a live what you preach kind of deal. So um, I think that's an important thing that I would stress if you are going to do the rune journey, and the people that are on it, is not just be here and just see what we're saying, what we're experiencing and such, but actually following through and doing what we are doing, or not what we're doing, but experiencing the things that we are. And yeah, the runes, it's you are kind of, I'm not going to say surrendering, but you are allowing these primal forces to have an effect on you, and you have to kind of accept that when you're on it, and they're going to do what they do, and you go with it. I'm not going to say, well, I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm not going to say the thoughts that I'm thinking because I don't think they're part of this conversation. But I do think that when we say we're working with the runes, or we're kind of letting them do what they're going to do, basically, we're accepting that, and we're acknowledging that they are going to affect us, and we are going to go through this together. I mean, with the Rune Journey, we do have a dedicated channel for it, for those that are participating, and I do like to check in a few times every 2 weeks, or yeah, every 2 weeks is whenever we move on. So, but yeah, and it's not just runes, so we can expand that to pretty much anything we work with, any type of manipulation, anything that we're working on. We have to actually put ourselves into it and do something. If not, we're just talking about things in possibly just talking about theory, or we have to actually show, or we actually have to do something to get a result. We can't just say that something is going to happen. Someone could argue that saying that something's going to happen is putting some intent behind it, but there's a difference between having a true intent and work behind it and just talking about it. So
I don't know it. Well, yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I was going to make some kind of joke. That said, if anyone has $1 million that they don't need, I did go through all the trouble of setting up this Twitch channel, and also joining this podcast. So I feel that's close enough to doing the right thing to get that.
Yes.
Actually, I
I
think
will
yeah,
work
all
on
all three of
manifesting
us
that
could
for you
use.
right now, Luna.
yeah, I'll put that right underneath everything else I have to do. I might get to that in 70 to 75 years
Oh,
if I'm
cool.
still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
God, if I'm still
you
worried
never
about
know. You never
money
know.
in 75 years, I'm gonna be so upset.
Hey, end stage capitalism, that's where we are.
Don't. Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. We're living the someone's dream. Let's see here. Dichotomous said so. Intent and work. People seem to suggest that it's enough when doing energy work and personal spell work to visualize and feel slash imagine the symbolism in energy work. I'm always worried this is just creating a dreamscape construct that doesn't have any effect on the world. So that's interesting because that starts to parse between uh, sort of two different things, which I think I'm not going to speak for AQ Lady or Adfang here, but I do think there is a difference between uh, what we have been talking about, which is sort of like the idea of and you do have to think of it from a lot of people doing the kind of manifesting we're talking about are not like spiritually or mystically inclined. It is a very sort of do it and leave it kind of situation. Um, Whereas what you're referring to, visualization, is typically a tool to sort of guide your own energy and guide your intent towards doing something. They can, like, I understand how they can be very similar, um, and in some cases they are, but personally, I do feel like visualization can be a tool as opposed to just a cop out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so those are like visualization is a tool, but if I say like I'm going to visualize myself feeling better versus I'm going to visualize and put intent and work on feeling better. Like if I have a headache or if I'm working with someone who is having a headache and I'm trying to help heal them, if I just visualize them getting better, that's not really putting anything behind it. But visualization can be that tool to help us see them start to get better, or however you work. Like we're not going to get into all the aspects of healing because we'll be here again for another God knows how long. But whatever it is that you that however you heal through energy, through Reiki, whatever, visualization is that tool to help you focus, and you do have to put that intent and work behind it. Um, and then the dichotomist said visualization versus energy work. People do energy work with visualization sometimes. Yes, so that's kind of what I'm saying. Visualization, if we are visualizing something and then wanting something to happen, we are putting energy behind that to have that thing work. So I'm differentiating between someone who just sees the rainbow but doesn't make the rainbow. Does that, hopefully that makes more sense.
And at that point, you're also not tasting the rainbow either.
Yeah, well, so the economist replied, so Atfang is saying visualize it but also feel it. I'm saying visualize it but also do it. Also, feeling it is also a part of the process if that's kind of how you work. Um, the economist said, also, I'm colorblind, so WTF is the rainbow. So a rainbow is a gradient of colors ranging from red to violet.
I think
So
they.
just
Oh
imagine,
God.
just imagine that you're seeing a whole bunch of, well, you can't. I don't know what kind of colorblind you have. So if you're like red green or like blue yellow, so just imagine shades of red and green or blue and yellow. Okay, Edfing, practical. This is the dichotomist. Okay, Adfang, practical example, telepathic shielding or psionic shielding. Also, Adfang, shut up. And then a tongue sticky out face. One of the things that I'm not good at, and I'm going to admit that, is shutting up. Once you get one of us talking, I mean, you can ask AK Lady. We will stay on this hill, and we will just talk until literally we pass out. That's something where, like, it's a gift and a curse. And I am not going to shut up because you're asking a question about telepathic shielding and psionic shielding. So off the bat, technically speaking, we cannot shield telepathically in the same way that we can shield with energy against an energy attack. I don't want to like dominate this whole like exchange that we're having, because this is a really long conversation. I mean, this is a really long, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm shielding was one of my pastimes. It was anyways.
Adfang,
We
we're at
can't.
hour 2 of this podcast. I think you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So whenever we talk about shielding or protecting telepathically, that happens at the level of the mind. While you can do something energetically to protect yourself telepathically, it's not exactly a one-to-one. It's kind of like apples and oranges. Like sometimes you can substitute an orange for an apple, but it's not going to be the same thing at all. So we have to work on either the telepathic side of things or the energetic side of things. Also, a telepathic shield or a telepathic defense of sorts is not going to help you energetically, theoretically. I mean, and there's overlap there. So you're asking about yeah. So if we're talking about visualizing something to protect us, a lot of people like to, visualize, the bubble around us that's protecting us. Visualization is a great tool, but we need to put energy into the thing that we are making. So if we're making a bubble shield, you have the visualization in mind, you have the idea of what you want to make, but if we visualize and don't put energy into that, it's nothing more than a visualization. So I think that's probably what you're looking for. Or hopefully that explains it.
I think that was a very concise explanation.
Okay, Dichotomous says, okay, so like how to move energy if not by visualizing. XD, I have my own answer for that, but had to ask. Yeah, so we can go through some energy manipulation techniques if you've never manipulated energy before. AK, why don't you take a stab at it, because I need to catch my breath.
Interesting question. Again, we all have different perspectives. So if you're asking directly how I work with energy, I feel energy. And so um that's just how I run. It's very difficult for me to describe and share. So yeah, is there intent behind it? Yes, but it's also having an understanding and feeling where it's like, say we're talking about energy healing, right? And somebody is not well, or they have blockages, or they have different things. So how do we determine that? Are we just scanning and looking? How are we exploring? How are we coming to the understanding of what is required? So it's going to differ for each and every one of us, and how we approach it will differ. If we have received training or certification from different schools, there'll be a little bit of a different understanding. And I would always suggest that however it works for you, you work to combine and create something that is within your wheelhouse. Um,
The dichotomist says, this is the distinction I'm trying to get at. What's the actual difference between declaring and visualizing something like you do in quote unquote The Secret and actually, I guess in bold, actually doing magic? So I guess what I'm trying, also they say the two often look almost identical from an outside superficial perspective. Parentheses, someone sitting and meditating, imagining, feeling a quote unquote a thing. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to emphasize is it in the example of meditation that you gave. So we we can see something happening, like we can have that idea of the thing in our mind. But for that thing to come to fruition, we have to move that energy or program that energy to do the thing. So that can happen in a lot of different ways. The easiest way to understand how to use energy is what I would say like a will-based way, which is literally you you have the energy inside of you and you have that visualization, and you you take this energy and you tell the energy literally, I want you to do this thing. And you you just do that. Like it's literally a thing that you do. You don't have to visualize. That's optional. That's a tool that people use. There are some people who can't see anything at all whenever they are trying to visualize, which again presents different issues. And I'm going to compare that to someone just meditating or imagining or feeling. So meditating at its base is not energy work, in the sense that if we are just meditating to like clear our mind, we're in a way not actually moving energy. We are just looking or understanding or feeling or just clearing our mind. But if part of the meditation is that you want to become more grounded, then that is whenever we are sensing our body and we are moving that energy around, and we are, we're grounding, and then we're actually working with that energy. So there's a clear distinction between having the idea of doing something or having a concept of what you want to do, and then actually taking energy and then doing the thing that we are visualizing or wanting to do.
yeah, I want to piggyback on that because meditation is not per se energy work. Um, it is a tool that some people help use to assist them in, again, either clearing their mind or being able to tap into the world around them, or for mental health, calming, working on our somatic and our nervous systems. So that is not, even though we see it often in practices of energy workers, they're not necessarily hand in hand. Um, so there's that. And there is an aspect, I'm going to double onto what Adfang said, of intent or programming is very important. It trumps, not everybody is visual, so not everybody uh, does use visualization as a tool. And when we're speaking in such broad generalities, we're looking at what we are seeing is being consumed or put out there in the greater world at large. And so the practice is going to vary, and how somebody approaches it depending on how they work how they have come to build their own practice. So practice and practitioners are going to vary depending on their experiences and their understandings. So even though we're using these things as kind of interchangeable, there are very, very minute and subtle differences, and you're never going to get the same answer, I think, from a real practitioner. Would you, Luna Adfeng, would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, everyone works with energy differently, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Um, we're all different, and we have different experiences, and we understand things differently. Um, I guess something that came to mind that may be helpful. Um, think of the idea of drawing a circle on a piece of paper, and then and then actually take your hand and get a pencil and then draw the circle on the piece of paper. There's there's a difference between like having an idea in your mind of what the circle looks like versus taking that pencil and actually drawing it on the piece of paper so that you have actually drawn that circle. Like there's a big difference. You have nothing on the piece of paper, there's nothing to show, and then you just have this idea, and then you actually draw it on the paper, and now you can show that you have done something. Like you have committed to that action of that visualization you had.
Agree. I think that ultimately, every situation is going to be unique and different. I would also, because I kind of like went AFK and then came back. Just wanted to say that, uh, just side tangent. For me, meditation is kind of like it's kind of like taking Tylenol and then saying that you're an expert in healthcare. It is a thing that can help people. Um, that's what it does. Sorry, you want
Yeah,
to?
the dichotomist replied and said that you're using physical analogies to describe something completely non-physical, which is the tripping block I'm trying to get you all to stumble over with me. Yeah, that's that's kind of common with things, especially with something just starting out, just describing how to move energy or how to do something. Um, it's easier to start with something that everyone has experienced rather than something that you may never have experienced or have no idea. Um, it's called a simile, sometimes a metaphor, if we're not using it like it or as. So we're trying to give an example of something that we have experienced and then compare that to something that that may not have been already experienced.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, and I'm kind of also, I guess, mentally catching up on the subject and kind of reading back a bit. But I think that, uh, a like we are very prone to, uh like, analogies with the physical, because it's, at the end of the day, even if we do have some kind of spiritual, uh or metaphysical experience, we're all humans and we are all stuck in these meat machines. And most, if not all, of our input comes from physical stimuli. So, kind of the baseline, anytime we're describing anything, it is always going to be physical. Just because,
We're physical
we are
creatures.
physical. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, even within the systems, and I'm not going to touch base on this because this is like a whole other thing. Like, even in systems, like, for example, Kabbalah, uh, like, the first sphere of existence, Malkuth, is just Earth. It just is the physical plane. Um, so yeah, I mean the whole concept of like analogies being physical. Yeah, yeah, because I mean sometimes that's kind of all you have to base it off of, which um, is also kind of why I think a lot of spiritualists in the past and even now um, get to a point where they're kind of like the thing that they want to tell you about is wordless or indescribable. Because I mean, realistically, all of it is wordless and indescribable.
The dichotomist says, using your drawing example, if I were to just imagine drawing a circle, it would be like remembering it, or remembering having seen it in a movie. But if I were to make a real, quote unquote, real energy circle via magical pen and paper, I would have to feel the pen and imagine the experience in real time. I would have to take that movie and essentially study it, mimic the physical stimuli, and above all, know that once I, quote unquote, perceive or imagine that circle being inscribed, I, quote unquote, know it is so, which is a bit woo, but I don't know, sound about right to you.
Sort of.
Um,
If you want, you can go first on this one.
well, I'm just saying, I think, I think that we are kind of saying a similar thing, except we are trying to extrapolate on it too far. So it imagining a drawing on a piece of paper or imagining drawing it. I mean, let's say that I mean, yes, it is remembering, but we are also, there is that sensation of drawing it, yes, but I'm not trying to get too far into, what is drawing on a piece of paper. I'm trying to give a very simplistic example. So yeah, drawing on a piece of paper or writing on a piece of paper. Um, the the difference being, okay, yes, we know what it is like physically. Um, we know what it is like physically writing on that piece of paper. Um, the difference being when we're doing it energetically is we're taking energy. Um, like let's say we're writing on a piece of paper or a magical piece of paper, whatever, magical pen and paper. We have the magical pen. We're saying we have the magical pen and paper. We then are using energy or our energy system if you're going to hold it physically, if that helps. We are then taking our intent and we know what we are going to write, so we are writing, your name or whatever on that magical piece of paper with that magical pen, because it's just energy. We can use energy to manipulate it too without even needing to touch it, because we can put our intent towards moving that pen and having it do it.
Yeah, and the dichotomist actually responded with immediate sort of panic. I'm not doing magic right, and everything I've ever done is a lie. Oh boy, I can see now that my analogy hasn't been communicated correctly at all. So, first of all, there's no wrong way to do magic. You're fine. Uh, Stop it. Um, I, I, I don't know. I think that visualization and sort of uh, bringing to life in your mind uh, something that you are doing, like for example, casting a magic circle. It really depends. And it also depends on, I think, your mind, how your mind works, as well as how you think magic works in the space of time. The reason I say that is because I grew up reading a lot of books on magic, and one thing I learned very quickly is that I am real bad at memorizing everything. But anytime I wanted to do a spell or something and I read through it in the book, I would kind of find that the way my brain would manifest or visualize the incantations would almost be as if reading it was enough to put that energy into whatever was being said. Then I would go and later do the more physical or somatic aspects of the spell work. Um, my point is that the human brain is complicated, and whatever works and whatever gets you to the point where you and again, this is a little woo, but also is kind of like that basis of understanding yourself, gets you to that place of, okay, I did it. That is what you should be doing. No person can tell you like there isn't a perfect foolproof recipe for any of this. There never will be.
Yet the dichotomist said, both actions occur by way of imagination. The magical pen and paper are just intentionalized visualizations or constructs in the mind rather than just imagining passively. I can agree with that. The only thing that I would say is we can say that if saying or and I don't want to play semantics or anything. I could care less about what we call things. As long as our understanding is that it is a thing that we have created with energy and we are using it. If using that terminology helps, then that's fine. But the thing is, it is a thing of energy that we have created or we are using in that example that you're giving. That's all. That's all I'm saying. It exists. It is there. We are using it.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely, if you have things you would like to add, AQ80, please, by all means. I am gonna say that we are roughly a little over 5 minutes into getting to where we're going to be at 2.5 hours. I'm gonna say that we should probably call it here soon, just because 2.5 hours is about the time when, I don't know about the two of you, but my brain is mostly mush at this point, and I don't know if I can continue to form coherent
We're
thoughts.
halfway until where I need to take a break. So we could just keep going. That's okay.
I'm
That's a
I
lot of
mean,
it's a lot of editing. There's a lot of editing involved. So like
oh, there's no editing involved. This goes straight to YouTube.
oh, okay.
But the yes, I mean, I'm super glad to know that as long as you are in the podcast at Fang, I can take as many breaks as I need to, and we will be set, and someone will at least continue talking.
Pretty much. You give me a stage and a topic, and I'll probably continue talking until someone tells me to stop.
Anyways, this is the point where I advertise at Fang time every Saturday. 5
Yeah,
pure
right.
hours of just at Fang.
Yeah,
Non-stop.
that's not happening. That's not happening. Adfang politics, go go go. We don't do politics here.
No.
We rarely, if ever, discuss politics, and we don't bring politics into our energy work discussions. Our server, politics is. Anyone will disagree with any and everything. No one's going to agree 100%. So if you want to talk about politics, you can DM someone who is okay with that. But yeah, we don't do that here.
The only thing I will say involving politics is that I don't think it's okay that the government has, caves full of cheese, and I'm waiting on my cheddar stipend. It's just so unfair. What would that cheese ever do to anyone?
I think everyone that is here and everyone that's on the server probably has a pretty similar outlook on politics, but I'd rather not go down that rabbit hole just because. That's just something that, nah, let's not do it.
This is, for the most part, a tangent slash metaphysical podcast. So we'll probably
We
move
do
this
have
through
real
clear.
topics, usually.
I mean, the topics we talked about today were real, in a sense.
Okay, sorry, let me specify. We typically have a topic for the entire podcast, not going off on tangents and queries.
Yeah, okay, I would, yes. Okay. Um, Fair enough. Also, just for context, because I know that I was just like, yeah, there's no editing done here. What I mean by that is I have control to turn the recording slash stream off at any given time. So it is already pre-baked to have started at a time when we were actually going to do things. So we're good.
Check you out. Woohoo!
No, dichotomous. You did not single-handedly derail the show for an hour.
You single-handedly were the best audience member and gave us things to talk about. You are fine.
Yeah, and hopefully next week we'll get ever closer to Ad Fang's goal of tens.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we hit tens before. Now we need to up it to the 20s.
Oh, how about we go from tens to teens?
We hit teens. We hit teens
Once in over a year and a half, even a year with breaks. But
we
yes.
did take a very extended break, so we can't blame the viewers for that. That is definitely on us. So it's not you guys' fault. But once you start watching again, it is going to be your fault if we can't get back into the tens and teens and 20s. So,
I mean, for context, today, if I'm not mistaken, at least based on Twitch viewers, we did get to, I think, like most was 7 at one point. So we're pretty close to getting to the tens. But just for the people either watching this on YouTube, watching this on Twitch, we are going to try to do this every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And obviously, there will be announcements if we're not able to do that. Of course, anyone who is interested in more discourse on occult topics, esotericism, any sort of metaphysics, empathic's journey, name pending, is available, I believe, on Discord, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I believe we are on Discord, yes.
Yeah, you are all perfectly welcome to find us and join, sign up, and we will, of course, love to have more beautiful conversations with all of you. And if you join the server and you join listening in on the server itself, you can listen to us be super unprofessional before I hit recording.
Yeah, and I would invite you guys to come join us in the after podcast. We don't really have a short, sometimes long after podcast chat, because if you think that we're talking a lot now, you have not heard us whenever we're not actually trying to stay on topic. So there's only the three of us here, so we're probably just going to probably not even have it. It just depends on how things go. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after this, we'll probably have like a debrief or something. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and say we did it. I think we did it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did it.
Perfect segue for wrap up.
Thank you all
Woohoo!
for
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you all for listening in, and we hope to see you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.